So I don't think it's any secret that Jake Tapper and Dana Bash are not journalists, right? Like I get a little tired of this. I mean, what is a journalist really, right? You are supposed to report the facts. You're not supposed to have a viewpoint. Well, that's changed nowadays. Everybody kind of sort of does have I don't believe that you can ever be completely down the center anyway. I mean, you're a reporter, right? You've got to have some kind of sense of self that one would think would sort of kind of come out. One would hope. I mean, that's the challenge, I think, that, they're all around there masquerading like they are journalists with a capital J and that they don't have an opinion on anything. Well, let me tell you, they should have an opinion. And it's kind of annoying when they don't actually come forward and admit their opinion. I mean, Jake Tapper spent the last 7.5 years, well, let's call it 7, because I think he was hoping and angling for this Trump interview, debate, which they did manage to secure at CNN, but he was hoping and praying he would get this thing. And so maybe in the last 3 months, right, he's tried to sound more neutral. I mean, he's not, but he's trying to sound that way. But it's been very clear over the years exactly where he stands. Same with Dana. So why go and do a debate at CNN? I don't really get it. I mean, I think Fox would have been out for blood, so to speak, right? They're so working hard to prove that they are not in Trump's camp, even though, he's the only Republican. So if it's a conservative network, one would think, but don't be too sure, right? Don't be too sure. Not when you've got Paul Ryan on the board, and Paul Ryan even said he's not going to vote for him. Trump didn't take too kindly to that. It's like fisticuffs there. They're a full-on blown out war between Trump and Fox News right now. We'll see if they're able to mend fences as he has to deal with CNN. But I have some concerns about him going into this. I don't think the rules as we see them are necessarily going to benefit him. They could in that. My advice to him really and truly would be, you know what, you're outstanding at this sort of off the cuff stuff. But the reality is, if you talk over a guy that seems as feeble and fragile as this particular president is, then I think that you're going to run into certain complications, right? It's like when he was debating Hillary Clinton. He did really, really well at that, I got to say. He was funny. He, at times, had a lot of gravitas, and then at times had a lot of sort of empathy. There was that moment when he praised her as a mother and as a grandmother. So I think that he went into that thinking, okay, I'm dealing with a woman here. I'm up against a woman. And people told him, okay, you got to do better with women in general, so let's calm down. When he debated Joe Biden in 2020, it was like, this is a guy I'm up against. And so the gloves were off. And what I would just say is you might want to put on the gloves just a little bit so that you don't look mean, right? You don't want to look mean. And maybe to a certain extent, the microphone being closed at certain times will help him. But then again, remember who you're dealing with, okay? CNN. So knowing that it's CNN, knowing that they're out to get you, knowing that they do not want you to win under any circumstance. They had their guy on the air just the other day talking about how he thinks everybody's going to jail if Donald Trump wins. Jim Acosta was constantly battling Donald Trump, another CNN person. I don't believe that would actually happen. I think that you run the risk of that more so, frankly, under Joe Biden. And we've seen reporters like Matt Taibbi be intimidated when it came time for him to have to testify in front of Congress about the Twittergate situation. Well, what happened? The IRS showed up on his doorstep that very same day. You had Obama's IRS going after Tea Party folks. You had Obama's team spying on 2 reporters I know, one formerly at CBS News, Cheryl Atkinson, one formerly at Fox News, James Rosen. So that didn't happen during Donald Trump, but it did happen during Obama. And we see the intimidation factor going on during President Biden, not to mention, let's be very clear, they're gaslighting us like there's no tomorrow. We're going to talk about that. No, it's not us, it's you. That keeps happening. And they're twisting facts. And great example, the 51X spooks that came out and said, nope, the laptop is totally fake, bought and paid for and sold to you courtesy of Rudy Giuliani and the Russians, except that was totally wrong, false information. They were the the people trafficking and misinformation back then. So this is the reality and complexity, if you would, of the moment that we are in. And so I think you need to think about all those things. And I think that Donald Trump needs to think about what exactly is in it for CNN. Maybe 2 commercials, right? They got 2 commercials. They're going to play commercials. And usually people don't play commercials during a debate, but they're all about the moolah. They got to make a few. They got to make a few bucks. We're not going to hold that against them. See, they're capitalists, even though they think they're communists. Even though we call it the Communist News Network, they are still fundamentally capitalists at the end of the day. So they're going to try and make a buck. They're trying to get some attention. And part of that means, well, sticking it to Donald Trump. In other words, they want a nail in the coffin. Everybody's reporting on a recent poll. I mean, it was like 1 out of the economists that like maybe they're neck and neck now. Typically what you had seen in all of the polls was that Donald Trump was ahead, and now you're seeing some indication that they're neck and neck. Well, this is going to be a really important debate. It's important, just like the State of the Union was really, really important. And everybody's kind of like, oh, gosh, what was going on with Biden? Because that was like a whole new Biden that we saw that night, and Donald Trump has made some allegations. But if Biden shows up like he was in the State of the Union, then Americans will be somewhat impressed by that. And maybe, all that cheap, fake stuff that KJP keeps talking about will settle in. I don't think so. I don't think he can hold it together for that long. I just don't. I mean, unless there's a little extra something on the side going on, and I'm not talking just about coffee, I don't think he can actually keep his thoughts together that long. But maybe that's, again, when I say Trump is walking into the lion's den, that's part of it, because the structure of this debate is really going to be very heavily reliant on the hosts themselves. Now, I can tell you right now, I mean, look, I've moderated 2 debates, 2 Republican undercard debates when I was at Fox. So I know what goes into the questions ahead of time. I know the research involved. So I would suspect that there's really certain kinds of questions that are going to be directed at Trump that will not be directed at Biden. I mean, it just feels like that is the name of the game. And this is what they do. In the meantime, if it doesn't go well for Biden, they already have their out. Here you go. Cheap fake. Any unedited video of Joe Biden's cognitive decline that the Biden administration does not want you to see. This is a meme that's going around. It tells you what the new noun of the moment is: cheap fake, just exactly what it is. And look, I think that KJP is ready, willing, and able to basically tell you, you didn't see what you thought you saw at that debate if he has a bad performance, right? Here's KJP doubling down on the whole fake thing, trying to allege that all these videos that we see of Joe Biden in rather vulnerable states, one after another, they're not real. They're not real. It's not what you really think.
Yeah, and I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation, and so we see this, and this is something coming from your part of the world, calling them cheap fakes and misinformation. And I'll quote the Washington Post, where they wrote about this, and they said how Republicans use misleading videos to attack Biden in a 24-hour period.
There's plenty to attack Biden on. Let's just be honest, okay? Right? We'll see if CNN can actually come up with the right lines of questioning in order to help expose some of those things that he can be attacked on. But let me tell you, the Republicans are doing it every single day. You get the economy that they're attacking on. You get the inflation that they're attacking on. You get the border that they're attacking on. You've got international struggles that they are attacking on. And you've got the whole law and order and crime situation that they keep attacking on. So they don't even need to go to his age, KJP. That's just gravy, okay? That's literally gravy. Except for the fact the majority of Americans really strongly feel that Joe Biden is too old for the gig. 81 years old, and this is not a young 81. This is what you call a very feeble, very old 81. And the reason those videos are so concerning is because, and you guys have seen him, I've played him over and over again, he just doesn't seem as though he's in the right state. He's looking dazed and confused. It's like the lights are blinding. And the reporter questions are intimidating. And the crowd isn't, he can't dance. Okay, so what? He can't dance. But it's the fact that he's just looking off, staring into space, that I think is the real concern there. And she complains that they're falsely edited. Well, okay. So maybe he wasn't having quite as indiscreet a moment as we thought when he was over in France. Remember when he tried to go sit down? He's like sitting, tried uno, dos, tres, fourth time, he finally sits. And so he kept going down. Well, the concern was that we never saw him sit. In fact, when you first saw the video, it looked like there wasn't even a chair there. So people concluded that he was having a very personal moment. And that was not the case. And they got it out right away. No. He was just trying to sit down, and everybody eventually sat down. But it's the slowness with which he operates, right? He walks slow. It takes him forever to put on his sunglasses. He's looking dazed and confused all the time. So you compound that with, okay, maybe they cut the clip short. But if he was like Sarkozy up there, Macron up there, if he was like the Prime Minister of Italy up there, Meloni, if he was like anyone else on stage with him, his wife even, then nobody would actually come to those conclusions. Nobody would be so suspicious about his ability to do the job. But the fact that he looks so darn feeble, well, that's what plays into it. That's exactly what people are concerned about. And you know what? They should be concerned. The guy's running the free world, thank you very much. They should be concerned, but they don't want you to be concerned about that. They want you to be concerned and threatened by the idea of another Donald Trump term. New today, we have learned the Biden campaign is putting some $50 million into an ad campaign to really circulate this idea that Trump has bad character and he is a convict, like a convicted felon, I should say. Convicted felon. That's, in fact, what Alex Soros, son of George, recommended y'all call him. He actually said members of the media, etc., should only call him one thing going forward. Just refer to him as a convicted felon. Again, remember the deal here. So Trump is the convicted felon, according to the left, that they can attack. Biden is the like son of God, right? Like he's the be all end all, despite the fact that he is so weak and so frail and so bad on every policy front. You're not allowed to go there. And if you do, they're going to call you out as just sort of circulating in what they call cheap fakes. I don't like that because I don't like seeing the president on the ground like that. It actually does upset me. And you don't see me actually showing a lot of video of him falling on the plane or at the Air Force Academy graduation because I don't like seeing that. And I don't think it looks good on the world stage. And I think it makes us look weak. But I also don't like this idea that they're just going to go, it's good versus evil. Hey, we did this last time around, did we not? And we landed with Biden. So in 2020, all they did was say, it's really simple. You got the good guy and the bad guy. Well, people have had the so-called good guy, I say that in quotations, for nearly 4 years now. And they've realized that, you know what? It may not just all be about character and character only. It may be about something more than that. Might policy actually matter? I think it does. I think it does a lot. And so this debate in some ways is going to be pretty darn telling because Biden, his favorite topics are abortion, which, by the way, the president would have nothing to do with anymore, right? Because it's a federally, it got kicked, back to the state. So it's no longer part of the federal government's purview. So, why are we talking about that? That's a state issue. You go deal with that in the states now. The Supreme Court kicked it back. And then his other issue that he wants to talk about, this cracks me up. Like, he must be delusional. Really, really delusional. He wants to talk about the economy. So I'm like, oh, buddy, like, game on, right? I do think that Donald Trump will be able to talk about the economy in a pretty meaningful, significant way that just pokes hole after hole after hole in anything that Joe Biden has to say. But all that said, remember, you're not allowed to think that. You're not allowed to think that Joe Biden is responsible for inflation. That's just cheap, fake kind of stuff, right? Cheap, fake kind of stuff. You have to go back to the well and just say, this is a guy who's a convicted felon.